Minister, we're now into the second week of this conflict, a conflict you did not start, but not necessarily you can end. You've been dragged into it. How do you move forward from here, and how does this come to a conclusion?
Thank you, Toby, for having me. I think, as you've said, and you yourself live here with your family, life has pretty much gone back to near normal in the UAE. So we've had an incredibly challenging 14 days. We're 2 weeks into this conflict that, as you said, we did not want to be drawn into. In fact, we were very engaged in diplomatic efforts prior to this escalation to try and avoid a conflict in the region. But now that it has happened, I think the UAE has demonstrated two or three things. First of all, that it prioritizes the protection, the security, and the well-being of its resident and Emirati population. Our UAE air defense systems are best in class. They're honed over decades of investment, practice in real battles around the world as part of coalitions to counter everything from terrorism to stabilize conflict settings like the Balkans, to liberate Kuwait, in Libya, in Afghanistan. And so I think you see that the UAE armed forces have kept our communities and our residents safe. Second, you've seen that our economy is very resilient. So people are back at work. We will have a bounce back in our economy this year. I have no doubt about that. It is a safe place to work and do business. And thirdly, you see that everyone has rallied around the model that is being attacked in the UAE and the Gulf as islands of stability and prosperity. No one is signed up to the model that Iran is propagating with its illegal and unlawful attacks on all the Gulf region, which have been egregious. And this was rebuked resoundingly by the UN Security Council resolution that was adopted the day before yesterday. 136 countries co-sponsored that UN Security Council resolutions that called these attacks unlawful, that called on Iran to stop, and that called on Iran that it had obligations to keep the Straits of Hormuz open. Iran is isolated on the world stage.
Talk about the attacks. At the moment, the UAE is defending itself and trying to prevent a regional conflict. How difficult is that balance?
I think the priority right now is defending the country against these attacks and ensuring it doesn't disrupt normal life. But of course, we have been preparing for various scenarios in a very turbulent region for decades. So these are not new plans. We have had contingency plans in place since prior to this point. You remember in Dubai, the Houthi attacks on the 17th of January in 2022. This kind of asymmetric warfare was something that we have built into our system. We've also built into our system resilience in our food supply, in our market supply, in our access to global goods. We are a global logistics hub. We connect destinations from Dubai, for example, to over 155 destinations around the world. Our economy is structurally sound and honed over decades. So I think you will see this economy and this country come through this stronger because we adapt. We're not only resilient, we adapt to crisis and we adapt to change. We take the safety and security of the 500,000 European residents, for example, who reside here, and I know that's a domestic audience that you are also speaking to, incredibly seriously. And I think our trade ties with Europe at 65 billion euros a year is a robust signal that we are also open for investment. So we're negotiating a free trade agreement with the European Union at the moment. European partners have come in to assist us and to also protect their own communities here in the UAE.
I want to just touch on that European part that you mentioned. I understand from sources that, the French, the Italians and others are involved in those conversations with governments from the region. What has been your message to them?
The Europeans have been incredibly supportive, not only because of the resident communities here that they are also trying to assist, but because of the strong partnerships and relationships that we have invested in over the years with European allies and partners. And so His Highness, the President, has received over 100 phone calls from around the world, but 41 countries actually from Europe co-sponsored this UN Security Council resolution 2817, and the EU has come out with a strong statement welcoming the adoption of this resolution. I think the High Representative, Kaja Kallas, has called for a meeting a couple of times with all of us in the region. We've had a number of dialogues with her. President Ursula von der Leyen has also had, at the head of state level, consultations with a number of us in the region and directly with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed. We're in constant touch. There's constant support. There is a lot of offers for assistance, and we're grateful for that partnership. And we are definitely doubling down on our engagement with Europe.
In terms of Europe and the partners that are helping, without compromising national security or elements like that, how are you protecting the nation and how are the international partners involved?
We're in a state of high alert here in the UAE, but the partnerships are, I think important as part of the grid and the layering, a multi-layering air defense system that we have here in place in the country. The primary brunt of the work is, of course, done by the UAE Armed Defense Forces, and I'd like to pay tribute to the incredible work they have been doing in keeping us all safe. But not just in keeping us safe, but in allowing our national airlines, Emirates and Etihad, to go up to 50% return to normalcy in Emirates, for example, and Etihad is also on its way up. You will see that in terms of stranded passengers, the majority who have wanted to leave have left. Many have chosen to stay and continue their holidays here. And the residents of the UAE, I think, have really rallied around the idea that this is their home. They have planted roots here. They feel protected by the government here, the government that also represents them. So I think all in all, we've had a challenging experience. But what our air defense system has shown is that it's best in class. You mentioned France, you mentioned Italy, the United Kingdom also, and others who have offered and who are coming into to work with us in this challenging time. But they're not coming in because they are protecting UAE interests. I think they're coming in because they recognize that UAE interests are, in fact, global interests. They're, of course, the wider regional stability of Europe and the Mediterranean is incredibly important. But globally, the Straits of Hormuz, a fifth of the world's energy supplies, passes through that narrow waterway. And this has an impact on not only global energy prices, but global food security and food supplies. The UN has estimated that there's been an 18% increase in their ability to give aid to those most in need in terms of food insecurity, for example, as a result of this. So Iran must not be allowed to hold the global economy hostage by its rogue state behavior.
Now, obviously, you're one of many countries impacted here, but what role can the UAE play from both an energy perspective and perhaps food security too?
Well, I think the UAE continues to be a global logistics hub in both all our ports and our airports, in our humanitarian city, for the supply of food and essential goods and humanitarian aid around the world. That's first and foremost, and that has not been and will not be interrupted by these challenges that Iran is posing to the region. Secondly, I think in terms of energy supply, we are a responsible and committed supplier to the global energy market, and we will continue to do what we can. But we are also very frank with our partners, as have other suppliers in the region been, that unless UN Security Council Resolution 2817 is enforced, and it is binding on Iran that they abide by it, there are going to be ramifications. There are going to be implications for global energy prices, and that will also impact bills in grocery stores, bills in the petrol stations, the price of food. So it's important today that Europe understand, and this would be my message to my European friends and partners. First and foremost, thank you. We're grateful to you. We're grateful to the community of Europeans living here who call this place home. We're proud of the resilience and the adaptability that you've shown in these challenging times. We're proud, as our president has said, to call you partners of the UAE in our nation-building enterprise. But secondly, what you are defending here is not only the UAE. What you are defending here is a model. It's a model of coexistence, of tolerance, of peace for the wider region. So if you're against those things, then you are in the camp of Iran and these rogue state actors that are trying to export nihilism to the whole international system. I don't think we can allow that to happen on our watch.
Do you think, in some ways, because obviously this has always been a nation of peace, it's a tourist destination, it's a business hub, in some ways, do you think what's happening now will change this country or this region forever?
We grew from a pearl diving economy into a global exporter, not only of hydrocarbons, but of commodity, of foreign direct investment, of clean energy, of AI. We're a country that is looking to an AI future. We've got a $1.5 trillion dollar investment with the United States in AI data centers. We've got, similar investments in Europe, in Italy, and France in AI data centers. We're building those here. We're an economy of the future. We always adapt in crisis. We respond. We're flexible. We don't promise that the regional environment can be entirely controlled. It cannot. I think that's a false promise. But we do promise that we will keep our country safe. We will keep our residents safe.
In terms of Emirates and Etihad, you've got these messages from the international community saying, quick, get on these emergency flights. Yet at the same time, you hear from people here that the flights at times are half empty and there's plenty of capacity. How hard is it from your perspective when some international audiences are saying one thing and yet the reality is completely different?
When this broke out, some passengers and tourists opted to leave. Many opted to stay. As you said, some of these flights are half empty. But I think some governments, for domestic reasons, felt compelled to show that they were offering that service to the UAE. A number of other European countries called us up and said, look, we know the best way out of the UAE is for the airlines to be fully operational, and we'll do everything to help make that happen. And I think you'll see that actually the numbers have dwindled. What needs to happen is Iran needs to desist from its attacks, needs to understand that it cannot behave as a regional bully. It needs to understand that it is isolated on the international stage, that the model here is resilient, that it's tough, that it's adaptable, and that we will overcome this. But they may not if they don't choose to go to the negotiating table at some point with the United States and find a compromise out of this. We are always for, in the future, diplomatic solutions to conflicts. We don't believe in military escalation, but we're tough when what we have fought so hard to build is challenged, and we will be tough through this.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.